Oh, it's my fishing partner. It's my fishing partner. What's up, Bog? How you doing? What's going on, guys? Welcome to mikeybalzz Fishing. I got a cool video planned for you today. A lot of you guys have watched some of my past videos. We went actually fish camping over south of Pickwick at Bay Springs Lake. Did kind of like a lake breakdown, and I know a lot of you guys tournament fish. So first off, we're out here. This is beautiful Lake Kissimmee. This is one of the best lakes in Florida. Like it's a chain too. It's connected to Lake Toho, Cypress. It's a great chain. It fishes a little kind of unique. It's kind of like a mix of Harris and Lake Okeechobee all compacted into one. It's a cool fishery. Giants. There's giants in here. And it gets a lot of tournament pressure. So what we're gonna do today is I'm gonna walk you through, some of my buddies are fishing some pretty big tournaments out on this lake and other lakes in Florida for the next like month and a half, kind of that pre-spawn, spawn kind of time in Florida. I'm gonna go out here and do some pre-fishing, kind of like I would for like a derby if I was gonna fish some kind of tournament. And we're gonna break down kind of how we go through the day, the processes, what we look at, what baits are we choosing, how are we approaching fishing this water versus that water, and just kind of go through that mindset. You seem to enjoy that kind of video, and I kind of like that, we're gonna use a big word, cerebral content. Yeah, I like thinking about stuff. So come along with me and my favorite fishing partner, Mr. Bog. Make sure to hit like and subscribe on the video for him, right, Bog? You don't care right now. He's thinking about getting on the water, as am I. Hit that like button. Support the stuff that you enjoy, dude. Support the stuff that you learn from. Let's go fishing. Bog is all up in our setups, but let me show you what I got set up. It's kind of a blend of slow fishing stuff and covering water stuff. So I got a punch rig, that's pretty classic. There's a lot of mats laying around and stuff like that. There's a lot of boats out too, a lot of fancy hashtag pro boats. Some hashtag pro guy actually cut me off because he's a pro. Nice job, buddy. So this one's kind of funny. It's actually like a little bladed topwater bait, kind of like a devil's horse. You got to fish it pretty slow, but it allows me to fish over some of the grass that I find. I got a chatterbait. That's a 1/2 ounce with that Komodo trailer we talked about already. I have another punch rig, but I might switch that over to that's a little heavier punch rig. I might switch that over to a 1/2 ounce weight, and like kind of see all the pads out here, like for like pitch and thick pads and stuff. We've had a bit of a warm up, so I have a Mag Ned. This is the Gambler Mag Ned. I actually have to retie that. It's a 7-inch fat ace, 1/4 ounce. I'm wondering, so one of two things. A classic pattern on Kissimmee is like tossing to these edges of these pads and stuff like that. They also spawn on them, so it's kind of a different way of making the same presentation, which everybody throws a black blue tip. That's what this is too, but a fat ace on like a 3/16 or something. JT actually won an FLW event here on Toho, Kissimmee chain, and that doing that with spawning fish. So it's one of those things that just works year after year. We also have, this is gonna change baits, but it's basically the same setup. It's a 1/4 ounce on braid. It's kind of for heavier dragging stuff. Yes, Bog, you're all up in my business. And then I got a goat swim jig right there. So it's kind of a mix of stuff so that I can cast and turn the trolling motor on high. I probably should have a trap rigged up, but I don't. I might tie one up in a bit, but it's so I can cast, move pretty quick, but at the same time, if I see something that looks kind of decent, or I don't know, if I think that I see some pads move or something, I can cast to it. But just a balance of, you know, some drag stuff, some slow stuff, and then some faster fishing, power fishing stuff. That's a big one. Oh, he's gonna come off. That is a giant, and we have to go get her. Oh, please still be on there. That's a freaking giant, dude. Don't come off. Oh. Gotcha. It's like a 7-pounder, boys. I have no idea how I honestly got her out of there, dude. I pitched it in there, and I got my little BB cricket rigged up, just the, you know, classic punch rig. That's that Daiwa Samurai braid, the super quiet stuff, because the water's still pretty chilly. But I pitched in, and it's a little hyacinth point, and I went to pump it, and it just stopped. And I kind of looked around, and I'm like, man, I don't think I'm hung on a pad, dude. I freaking reeled down and set the hook because just it like didn't move. That joker was like 3 foot like down, wrapped around a pad, and it jumps. I'm like, this fish is going to come off. But punching pre-spawn fish, and punching always doesn't always mean like heavy mats and stuff. You have to like assess what your lake has. In Florida, it's a great technique because they use this, because here's what's gonna happen, dude. There's this edge, we're kind of like inside a grass line right here. These jokers are gonna go spawn like in that little pond right there, in that little pond, or like on these pad stumps right here. But let's get this guy released. That was so cool. Literally, I've made like 3 or 4 pitches, dude. And that's a Lake Kissimmee toad. All right, look how fat, dude. That fish is like totally coming into spawn. That's awesome. Back down into the thick stuff you go, honey. Go make people that look like you. What do you say we punch again? God bless it all. Dude, I've been bit 4 times. It's probably like a little fish, but I don't care. I just want to catch the joker. Just got to keep them interested when they bite multiple times. Otherwise, they stop biting. Got him that time. And then I got a terrible hook set on them. That's what happens, dude. Sometimes when you can't give them the weight, like you can't drop down to them, you end up not getting a very good hook in them because you're really, really high. And it's a pretty stout hook. It is what it is. Uh-oh. Had it the whole time. Just once again, there's a little point to a mat right here. Not a big one, but I like the fact that they're eating it on the fall and not I'll kind of yo-yo it up and down. Little Nedster. Nice little 4-pounder on a little Ned. It actually was kind of set up. Sorry, kind of set up like it's coming into spawn right here. It's on a little isolated Kissimmee grass deal. So I'm not gonna lie, the day has been kind of interesting thus far. I have no idea what the hell's going on. I have kind of an idea. But I think these fish, there's some fish that are in, we're actually in a grass line. This is a great example. Outside grass line, inside grass line. We're kind of in between, and that kind of embodies what's been happening. We got some bites. We caught a real big one right off the bat, pitching mats. And those mats are kind of used as an inward kind of way. Sometimes they go in and come out to spawn, but basically it's a stopping point, like a break line, a grass line, if you will. So we caught that big one, and it kind of keyed me into mats. We went and pitched a bunch more mats, and we caught a few little ones, but didn't do much of anything. So I started just casting around some of these pads, and we caught one decent one. So I don't know if we're catching the same mood of fish, like they're fish that are moving in, or if that fish that we caught casting kind of isolated stuff was actually on a bed. So it's really hard to tell. So I'm gonna cast this net around a bit. I'm gonna stay off the outside grass line and focus kind of on this inside stuff. I like fishing isolated stuff. I think bigger fish relate to isolated stuff. It's tricky finding it. Like, you got some isolated pads right there. I would even call this stuff in the middle here isolated, especially if you're fishing kind of like the corners. There's an isolated patch there. That isolated stuff seems like stuff that they move and sit on, and sometimes they stack up on, but the bigger ones tend to use that kind of as staging points to either go in or, you know, push out and like bed around some of this Kissimmee grass or some of these pads. So we're gonna stay in the mid-range, maybe push in a little bit, but it's about isolating. I always talk about Al Lindner. Al Lindner says 10% of the fish, you know, or whatever, you know the phrase. But the point being, though, is if you can figure out about where they are, Kissimmee isn't a very big lake. It's decent size. But if you can figure, like, the general mood of the fish, where are they generally? Are they in? Are they, you know, in that first, like, that inside, outside? Are they inside? Like, and I'm talking about the grass lines. If you can figure out that general thing, you can't pattern Florida fish like you can in other places, but you can at least have a general idea of where to focus when you pull up on a place that you want to fish. Do you need to be way inside? Do you want to be halfway inside? Kind of those general terms, because it is 100% about location. Yes, it's about baits, and I love baits and trying different stuff in that and presentations, but in the end, if you're not near the fish, they can't bite your lure because you can't cast 1,000 yards. This ain't like surf casting. So you got to be near them, and then you can pick them apart and figure them out. He was running out with it. Dude. Stay out of there. Are you kidding me? That's why that net is awesome, because all it takes is a little tug and you catch 3 pounds. So with this Ned, all I'm doing is kind of short casting. You see we got some pads right here. All I'll do is cast kind of past the point like that. You know, let out a little line because I overcasted a little because I'm #pro. But I'm just kind of shaking it back, and I got a couple hopes. One, there might be a bed there on that corner. 2, there's a fish staging to kind of bed somewhere in here. They're just kind of swimming around because we got an edge right here. But I'm not like dragging it all the way back like a worm. Like, I've got through there, so I'm finished up. There's a little bit of isolated Kissimmee grass right there and a point. So I'll drop it right on that corner, let it sink to the bottom. You'll notice I kind of like point my rod at it too. We're in like 3.5, 4 feet of water. So I don't really need to like feed the bait line. I just kind of point my rod at it, and usually that'll let it pendulum a little more straight down so that where I'm making the cast is where that thing ends up. And I hung up on a little hydrilla, so I'm gonna go and pop that out. The nice thing too is you can do what I just did with this thing. It's not like a Texas rig where if you go and slam it, you're gonna knock your hook out. But once again, little trough right in there, like a little kind of ditch thing. Just kind of toss it in there. You know, give it a few pops, drag it along the bottom, feel if there's some openings on the bottom. And it's that simple, dude. And when they bite it, you're gonna either feel like a dunk, or your rod's just gonna load up and it's gonna start going whoa, 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 whoa. It's hard to miss fish on this thing, which is kind of nice. Like, I actually had one where I had to reel him up because he was running straight at me. But the hook comes out super easy, even though it fishes pretty clean. Around like hydrilla and stuff like that, it gets a little bit clingy. But if you have isolated emergent vegetation like this, it's pretty golden, dude. Fish on. That net is just the deal, dude. It's crazy. Like, they're really chewing it. I don't know what the deal is, but they like that Ned with that fat ace. So let me show you this Ned real quick, because we've caught quite a few fish on it and gotten some bites. This is the power Ned. It's that Gambler power Ned. Basically, it's like a 4-wheel drive Ned. It's got a little bit stouter hook on it. It's not like a heavy jig, but the brush guard's a little bit stiffer. It's got that screw lock, and I like putting that fat ace on it. This is literally the type of fishing it was developed for. Just kind of tossing to either corners of cover. In this case, it's going to be pads, isolated like stalks and that. It's really, when we kind of like designed it, it was for kind of like a spawning, an isolated spawning kind of bite. Because in Florida, the past, God, it's got to be like 4 or 5 years now. JT kind of initiated it, at least nationally. You know, it was happening long before then. But these isolated, just like that little patch of pads, or, you know, there's a patch of pads down there that just has like an isolated stalk that sticks out. Those fish, you can't see them spawning on it, but that's the stuff that they're using, especially the bigger ones. We haven't seen the bigger ones. That leads to a whole nother conversation. I don't think they're totally on beds yet. I think there's some somewhere, but I haven't found them. But that's what it's designed for, you know, something where you can put kind of a semi-finesse presentation into heavier cover. Yes, you can drag it through brush piles, drag it on shell bars, which I do a lot of, but really it's for kind of that target fishing, that shallow water fishing where you can't use a spinning rod and a Ned. Like, I got this thing set up, it's on an XD3 Pro 7'3" medium heavy, 20-pound fluorocarbon. So like, that's not your traditional Ned setup, and some of the stuff I'm throwing it to is pretty darn thick. So that's kind of been something that works. I've seen a lot of people moving around, which usually means they're not getting bit and they're kind of scrambling around. We're not getting on anything consistent, but we've gotten bites, and we got one big one in the boat. So the other thing that's kind of weird today, if I can just go on a rant, is the conditions changed. If you notice, compared to how we started this morning, calm, flat, sunny, beautiful. I thought I was actually kind of underdressed or overdressed because it was getting super warm. And then all of a sudden, about 2 hours ago, like, this came in, it got all cloudy, it even drizzled a little bit, and it's changed kind of how things lay out. It's a lot harder to throw the targets and use that Ned, but it seems like they're still biting it. But there should be some kind of active like chatterbait bite going on or something. We're gonna keep slanging, but that's what the process is. You know, we get out here, we test our theories. One thing that we have isolated though, these fish are coming in. There's no doubt about it. They're inside. They're not on the outside grass lines. They're in that mid stuff as well as way in. And some of the males are peeing, and usually that means that they're about to spawn. It means their hormones are all crazy and stuff like that. So keep on grinding, because that's what this is about. But I think that Ned, throwing that chatterbait, and if we find a few isolated mats, maybe we'll dob our stuff on in there. But it's a process. It really is. Another one out of the mats. Decent one. It was like 3-pounder out of the junk mats. I weren't expecting to catch them, but just a little why not? No, she thumped it. Got you. God, he freaking hammered it, boy. That's a nice 3-pounder. Look out, Bob. Relax, homie. Dude, that fish like jacked that bait. That was cool. Butt rubs. It's gonna be a wrap on today's video, guys. Oh, thank you. Right in the ear. It's gonna be a wrap on today's video, though. So here's what I took away, and this is kind of the process, you know. I marked a lot of the places where I got bit, because by the end of the day, what I'm kind of assuming is these fish are coming in. The water's high. I noticed that right away. so it spreads the fish out, so they're not super grouped up because they're just starting to come into spawn. And a lot of times, if you guys ever fish Florida, it's figuring out kind of where they're at in the spawn. Are they coming? Are they going? Are they up? Are they about to go? Like, it's very much for like January through say March or so. That's really what you're keyed in on, because finding those fish are key. We caught one big one today, and I actually missed another bite that I wish I could get back. But key presentations, I like flipping mats. Excuse me, Bob, I gotta get over here. This morning the water was pretty cold, but then I ended up with a why not. Started off with a cricket, a BB cricket. That's just a 1.5, 65 pound braid. I got my old Corrado on there. That's a 711 Halo TI, heavy. I like the heavy, not the extra heavy for the mat flipping. We threw the chatterbait a bunch, didn't really throw the top water. The other thing that really showed off was this guy. You can see she's all gooed up, looking really good for a presentation, right? But my Ned, four-wheel drive Ned. What's nice is, like, I don't need to reset my bait a million times with that thing. I can throw it in some of this junky stuff, rip it out, slam it on the water, get the stuff off. And as these jokers come into bed, it'll definitely work. Like, that's one thing that I took away. If I come back in the next, like, say week or so as the weather warms up, I'm definitely gonna have that thing tied on, because isolated stuff, little corners of pads, things along those lines, where I caught them today, there's gonna be more fish and there's gonna be bigger fish because they're gonna be spawning on that kind of cover. I don't know if I'd stick with the fluorocarbon. I think I'd probably have two setups, kind of like I do here. I have a Texas rig on braid right here. I'd probably change that over to a Ned and have two Neds, one on braid, one on fluorocarbon, and use the one for the fluorocarbon kind of on more isolated stuff, and then the braid for the thicker stuff. But when you're pre-fishing, whether it's for a tournament, whether you're fun fishing to try to like get something set up for your buddy and that, it's all about gathering the information. The best way I do it is when I'm driving in the truck home, I kind of gather in my head. But one tip I'll give you, use your graphs. We always talk about your graphs, like when you're fishing offshore, scanning and that, but I don't know about you, I'm super forgetful, so if I don't mark some of these places where I got bit, I'm not gonna remember. I mean, you should see how vast, like, dude, there's so much vegetation. Like, was it that corner of the pads? Was it that corner of the pads? Was it that isolated pad? You can get really turned around. So hedge your information, because what ends up happening, there's a reason you got bit there. And especially when you're in spring, those fish are kind of moving up, they get pushed back by a cold front, they move up again. They're gonna be in and around those areas. You found something, you know? You definitely wanna make note of that. And it's a good way to keep a fishing log too. Like, I actually date my waypoints so that I know, hey, back in, 2017, I caught them here. Now lake levels will change, vegetation changes, but it gives you kind of a gist, because there were actually a couple places that we fished that were near where I had waypointed back, say, in 2018, 2015, whatever, and we got bit. We had to adjust our location and push in a little because the water's higher, but they were still near that waypoint, which tells you kind of they come back to some of the same places. So definitely log that information and use that information, because what it helps you do too is be more efficient your next time out. You don't want to go through the exact same process the next time you go fishing. You want to kind of have it in front of you so you can move forward and grow from the things that you've already done. It's always crappy to waste a day of fishing, so use that information. Like, use what you found and grow it. Bog, did we catch enough fish today? I see by the look on your face, the answer is no. That's gonna be a wrap on today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. I noticed a lot of you guys, especially since we posted some of the videos like that mega bag and of the red fishing lures and stuff like that, a lot of you guys aren't subscribed. Support grassroots fishing, support things that you take away and you learn from, if you do, in these videos. If you don't, just hit dislike and peace. But thank you guys for watching. We are out for now. We'll see you back out on the water or talking about fishing lures. But whatever it is, it'll be about fishing. Thank you guys. Later.